Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Yes, good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, viewers, as we head on into this segment this morning, our first segment, we are chatting with Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS. And I think we got things resolved now in terms of going forward. So good morning to you and welcome.
All right, good morning to you. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks for having me.
All right, excellent. So we started with the discussion, and I'd like you, in terms of putting the details out there, reminding our viewers in relation to the updates as it relates to the happenings within Tobago.
All right, yes. So we often do our weekly updates. We basically have comparison figures. So we're going to compare January 1st to July 1st. We're going to compare 2023 versus 2022. So our serious reported crimes stood at 398 in the year 2022. As it relates to 2023, it stands at 324, which shows a 19% decrease in SRCs. Our murder figure, which stands at 7 as compared to 4 last year, continue to be our more challenging figures as it relates to that serious crime of murder, which is a capital offense. Right? So our detection rate on that, we would have only solved 2 of those murders thus far. So we are working on that to ensure that the public get some sort of safety and assurance as to the work of the police. As relates to our main crimes that are affecting Tobago Division, they include general larceny, sexual offenses, and these offenses in particular contribute mainly to the SRCs. In the month of June of this year, we saw an increase in robberies. The general robbery figure when compared to last year to this year is much lower this year. However, in June, there was a significant increase, and some of the factors that we want to allude to that may have contributed to that is the July-August holiday, the parties, these things. So we find a lot of commercial businesses being targeted. And I often want to remind the public that you don't rob buildings, you rob people. So somebody leave their home and they say they get robbed. Robbery is an offense against a person. So these robberies took place at commercial establishments. And on the good side of that, over the weekend, the Chauvin Road Police Station Inspector Stewart and Sergeant Wilson, they would have been able to conduct inquiries, did some search and warrants, and at least four persons were held, suspected persons as relates to those robbery in the Chauvin Road district. So we want to congratulate the Chauvin Road Police for doing their great job, and also to thanking the public for sharing information that would have brought some relief to the community. So very soon we'll see those charges being preferred and presented to the public. As it relates to the recovery of firearm, last week, once again, officers of the task force, Corporal Baker and his team, they were able to recover a firearm on a person at Mason Hall, to be precise, a revolver for unknown make with several rounds. So that person is in custody and that person should be appearing before the court in a very timely manner. So we are seeing that there is some progress in Tobago, and we want to encourage the public to continue to work with us while we are doing our best as relates to our patrols, our strategic plans. We have a number of things in place for the July-August period, and they have been in place. Not now, we have been very proactive this year around. So as far back as 3 months ago, we have a number of things taking place. So we have our Joint Army Patrol, we have our collaboration with our other entities such as the License Department, our co-workers or counterparts from Trinidad. We're talking about our interagency task force, our guard and emergency. We are all on board, all hands on deck, and we are trying to make and continue to ensure that Tobago is safe. And it's been done through a proactive measure.
Very quickly, based on your response and feedback, and certainly public confidence is one of the key things for the TTPS, have you seen that increased effort to work with the TTPS in terms of persons being able, to drop a tip in here, highlight, I observe something in the community, something that you should follow and check in on, of course, anonymously? How has that response been specifically in terms of public confidence and wanting to, yes, let me help the TTPS in this process?
Right. So that is something that we continue to have a little challenge with generally, and it's because of some always say a personality. They don't trust the police. But we are getting feedback. Hence, for example, we talk about the robberies that were solved. Persons are communicating with the police, and there is always the element of where sometimes you talk about informants, you talk about persons who would just know a police officer. No, information do come to our way. I mean, I can simply say persons would communicate with me like we have certain things going on, check it out. Sometimes it's not necessarily the person may have the information, the factual information, but observation is key, and is very helpful that members of the public, you see something unusual in your community, nothing is wrong with reaching out to a police officer, whether it's via the station or somebody you know personally. It's like, I observe a black car driving up and down in the community. These are the things that you want, and it's not necessarily this to identify and to say, well, you see John Brown, whatever, because self-preservation is key, and we always had the issue of trust. So the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is working on our image of restoring that level of trust, and we have seen some progress. And we are doing the necessary training to ensure that we improve our standard in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Certainly. As I would have mentioned earlier, one of the focus areas we definitely want to deal with this morning, we are into the July-August period, and that great responsibility vested with parents who are also consumed with work, and at the same time trying to balance the status quo of having your children at home under the circumstance. Tell us a little bit from the perspective of the TTPS, how far does that responsibility go? And when does it become a criminal offense, depending on the age of the child that I have left unattended at home?
Right. So let me start at the worst. Leaving a child unattended, or leaving children to supervise children, is an offense. It is what we refer to under the Children Act. Under the Children Act, we refer to that as abandonment. Right? And it carries a penalty in the summary. If you are from a summary perspective, if you have been a summary conviction, it carries a penalty of $5,000 and 6 years imprisonment. Under indictment, which is the more severe, it carries a penalty of $50,000 and 10 years imprisonment. And that is simply for you leaving your child unattended. Barring that, let us look at what we can do to prevent persons having to experience this hardship or extreme measures, right? So as we start our July, August holidays, and let us not only talk about or take this information for the July, August, it should be done all the time. If you are leaving your children in the care of somebody, that person must be a responsible adult, not a responsible child, a responsible adult. As we know, we will have vacation camps. We are advising the public, if you have to register your children or child for these camps, ensure that you get sufficient information about the camp. Know the persons, know who are these persons who are running these camps. And you of yourself should also visit the camp if you can. Constantly check up on your children during the July, August holidays. Sometimes we are at work, we can't be too busy to call to find out, Jane, Jack, how you're doing, everything okay? That is one of the measures of sometimes that phone call might come at a pristine time. That child might have to make some kind of mischief, and it's like, wait, mommy, you think your cameras are wrong and all these kind of things. But you have to check up on your children. If you are going to the beach, ensure that you go with responsible persons. I would also encourage that if you are taking children, especially camp, make sure you have lifeguards. Make sure that they are constantly supervised. Do not leave your children unattended for one moment. We are swimming pools, we are swimming pool camps. We always hear the story. The child was now here, we can't find the child, and next thing you know, the child was found floating in the swimming pool. So that is important. We want to advise the motoring public in particular. Children are out, they are everywhere. So we have to encourage the motoring public to be very vigilant. Let us observe our speed limit, especially when you're going through communities where this time children will be on the road playing a lot of football, playing windball, cricket. Well, not on the main roads, but that would often happen on our secondary roads, our roads in the streets. So we want to encourage the motoring public, look out for the children, look out for the pedestrian, observe the speed limit. Children, I want to reiterate again, children are not to be supervised by children. In our law, a child is somebody who is 18 years and over, and we therefore want to encourage that.
That's 18 years and under.
Sorry. Yeah, a child is 18 years and under, and we want to ensure that children are not supervised by children, and we need to do that with a responsible person. Do not leave your child with a grandmother who is bedridden. That is not a responsible person, and we often find that happening. And if we continue along those paths, we will have challenges in the future, and these were the instances where the police get involved. If there's any challenges, please contact the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We have the Child Protection Unit. They are based at Chauvin Road. You can communicate with them at 639-8888.
So this is a case where, in the circumstances, if you are faced with that challenge, the neighbor calling, etc., is it an immediate, or that becomes at the discretion of the officer? Is there some kind of warning and guidance depending on the situation? If a parent has said, I really had to kind of rush out in the circumstance to deal with an urgent matter, how does the TTPS treat with that?
No, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are not, let's say, malicious and savage in our actions. However, it is a crime, and we often have to find means and ways to prevent these things from happening. And if it is so, sometimes you just have to take your child with you, or you try and reach out to someone who can oversee that child for that particular time, because it might be an emergency that you are rushing out to. But if you leave a child unattended, you can have a greater emergency, because you have instances where sometimes homes are burnt. Children can be very mischievous. As I said, the devil find works for either hands. And these are the times that all sorts of things can happen. So as much as possible, we're going to encourage parents and guardians, find somebody responsible, or take your child or children with you.
All right. Any other areas you'd like to highlight before we close this morning?
But in closing, I would just want to encourage the Tobago population. We know we have a lot more persons coming from Trinidad, and we talk about tourism. We have to understand we appreciate our local tourism, because a lot of our persons are coming from Trinidad, and we want to encourage persons to be safe. You're going to the beach, do not take your personal belongings there, because you don't want nobody just to take your bag and run. I mean, Tobago is relatively safe, but there are often the instances where there are opportunity to commit crime. So continue to be safe. Observe the speed limit, be vigilant in where you're going. If you are partying, park in well-lit areas. If you are drinking, get a designated drivers, because I assure you, as part of our strategies, the Trinidad and Tobago, we are on the street, and we are looking out for persons who will be drinking and driving and committing all these traffic offenses.
All right. Thank you very much there, Sergeant Joseph Jordan, bringing out the updates from the TTPS, bringing out those weekly updates, and also just giving some tips, parents. We've got please remember, it is a criminal offense to leave your children unattended, or more than that, children taking responsibility for children. All right, viewers, at this point, we remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.